Hey guys, welcome back to Oak Abode. Today I'm going to show you guys how we make eggs on stainless steel cookware without any sticking at all. It actually is so much easier than you would think. It doesn't require a lot of fat or oil. We were tipped off to the fact that it is all about the temperature of the pan before anything is added. So I'll show you guys the tests that we use to make sure the pan is the perfect temperature, and then I'm going to prove to you guys that it is totally possible to cook eggs on stainless steel cookware without any sticking. I'm gonna go ahead and link the exact pans that we use down below, and I'm also gonna show you every single step that we took along the way, because who knows, maybe it's possible that the sticking would occur without any one of these steps. But if you want to skip right to the scrambling, you can skip ahead. The first thing I do is turn the heat on medium and I let the pan begin to heat up. And to prove to you guys just how well this method works, I'm actually gonna use a rubber spatula, which I don't love cooking with plastic or rubber, but for the sake of the experiment, I'm gonna show you guys that you don't even need anything really hard or scrapey to scrape off the bottom. We're gonna do it all with a rubber spatula. So after I have the pan heating up, I grab our eggs laid by our sweet chickens in the backyard, and I just go ahead and start breaking those and scrambling them. I am still learning how to get the pan to the exact right temperature, so I have to play with that heat a little bit, but I'm gonna show you guys the water test, which is the cheat that I use to know when the pan is the exact right temperature, not too hot, not too cold. Again, if you wanna just skip to the scrambling, you guys can skip ahead, but I think the water test is really, really important, because otherwise I never would have learned how to tell when the pan was exactly the right temperature to prevent any sort of sticking whatsoever. I like to add a little bit of almond milk to our scrambled eggs, but I don't think this is totally necessary. Okay, now that the scrambled eggs are all mixed up, I'm gonna test the temperature of my pan, and I like to do this with just a little bit of water and a spoon. This method is known as the Mercury test or the water test, but basically you want the water to glide across the surface of the pan without a lot of sizzling and without actually evaporating, and I'll explain why this is in a second, but let's see where the pan is right now. So this is what it looks like when the pan is not hot enough. What happens is the water hits the pan, and then the heat underneath the pan causes the water to sizzle and evaporate like you might expect it to. As you can see, now we have some pretty intense steam coming off, but that water is still sizzling, so it is still not ready. Water is still sizzling, so still not ready, but you guys can see all these little droplets of water are forming little beads. This is exactly what we're looking for. It means we're getting close. We're getting more of those beads, but we're still getting some sizzling. And finally, this is exactly what we want. We want the water not to evaporate when it hits the pan. We want it to act like mercury and just sort of glide across the surface of the pan. The reason why this happens is because a tiny pocket of air is formed between the water and the pan. And this is exactly why the eggs are not gonna stick either, because when that pocket of air is formed, it prevents the food and the fat from sticking to the surface of the pan, and you get this beautiful, even heat. Now I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like when it is too hot. So watch how the water splashes. See how it all kind of exploded in the beginning? That means it's hotter than we want it, and it might cause the opposite effect we want, where it burns. Let's check it out in slow motion. So even though the water is floating, we don't want that explosion at the beginning. Right now it's really close because we did get the mercury effects, but we had a little more sizzling than I would like. So I'm gonna wait just a few more seconds. Usually it only takes about a minute or two to heat up to the right temperature. All right, let's try this one more time. Perfect, absolutely perfect. It was actually just a tad less hot than I wanted, but it worked. Okay, now I'm gonna turn that heat down just a tad, and I'm gonna add our fat. And don't be afraid of butter, guys. I add no more butter to this whole set of 6 eggs than I would to 1 piece of toast. It's not a big deal. Whoa! My butter always turns a little bit brown, so if you have a way to do it without turning the butter brown, let me know. But I find that if the temperature is perfect, the butter turns a little bit brown every time, but it does not taste burned. It doesn't affect the taste of the eggs. Okay, we're gonna let that heat up for just about 5 to 10 seconds, and then we're gonna add the eggs. Got a little bit of smoke coming up, so it's time to add the eggs. I actually like it to bubble a little bit more than it did here. I had the pan a little bit cooler than I usually do because I was trying to film and do this at the same time, which is not easy. So in a perfect world, the pan actually would have been a tad hotter, but you guys get the idea. I like to let the eggs cook for a minute before I stir them too much because I really want that pocket of air to be formed between the food and the source of the heat. Turn the heat up just a little bit. I'm gonna show you guys a close-up, just in case you didn't believe me. Because the heat was just under where I wanted it, on the sides of the pan where everything's cooler is where you can see that we got a tiny little bit of stickage, but that just proves that it really is the temperature because on the bottom where it was hotter, it stayed perfectly clean. But the spatula actually ended up taking off the edge bits too, just fine. All right, as you guys can see, there is no sticking, even with a crummy rubber spatula. After I scraped the edges with the spatula, it was pretty much perfectly clean. So like I said, guys, it is super easy. If this went too fast for you, we wrote all those steps in a blog post along with links to other videos that we found really helpful. I have never burned eggs on my stainless steel pans, and I'll put all the information that we watched before we actually gave it a try on that blog post for you guys, so it's a little helpful as well. So in summary, there are 2 things you need to remember if you want to cook eggs on stainless steel without sticking, and those 2 things are getting the pan the right temperature before adding any fat or food, and using the mercury or water test to make sure your pan is at the right temperature if you are new at this like I am. I found that test incredibly helpful. If you guys aren't already following us on Instagram, our Instagram handle is oak_abode. And of course, if you guys haven't already subscribed to our channel, we would love if you would hit that subscribe button so that you can join us again in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.